Welcome to an introduction about the book Born a Crime, written by Trevor Noah. In this course, you will get a chance to read this novel, and I just want to stop at first and just discuss why we should read a novel at all. Some of you might not be very happy and pleased to see that we should read a whole book, but I'll give you some hints to why this is such a good idea to do this. First of all, we will be visiting through reading the book an English speaking country, and in the course you're supposed to learn about cultures, and the best way to learn about cultures is to have someone from that specific culture talk about it. So I thought that this was an excellent opportunity to learn more about the South African culture. Over that, you'll also develop your reading skills, you'll learn more words, you get to think about and reflect on ethical issues, and we'll discuss these together, where you'll be able to interact with other students and with your teacher. You will develop that ability to discuss and to speak in English. In the course, it also says that you should be reading literature and that you should be able to discuss social, cultural, political, and historical conditions, as well as values in different contexts and areas where English is used. And you should also be able to compare that with your own experiences and knowledge. So I think that this book is quite a good ground to stand on when we should do those types of assignments. So that's why we should read this novel. Then you might ask what we should do with it. Well, the first assignment that you will meet in the course that is connected to the book is that you should write some reading journals. Now, these are some worksheets where you should write about the language that you are meeting. Maybe you have learned some new words or some new idioms and so on that you should reflect on. And then at the end of the course, you will participate in a literature seminar where we discuss the book, and you will also write an essay connected to the book at the end of the course. And we'll do these two at the same time. So we save time by doing that. So overall, you get plenty of chances to discuss these the events in the book and what happens and the questions that might arise when you read. And we'll do that through these three types of assignments. Moving on to the next question, which is how should you do it? Well, of course, you should read the book. On its learning, you'll see in each week, in each chapter, that there is a time schedule of how much you should read each week. Now, it's not the same amount. I have tried to divide the chapters so it's even, but I know that the chapters varies in length. So just make sure that you keep up so that you can finish the book in time for the literature seminar. And you should write in the reading journals. And I also want you to make notes throughout your reading. Make notes of what new words that you've learned. Make notes about what happens in the book, what you found interesting, what might have arised some feelings that you struggle with, or that made you think about things in a different manner. Perhaps you were given some new perspectives on things that you haven't thought about before, or you have thought about everything that's in the book as well, and that can also be a reflection. So take that in mind. Take in mind the South African culture that you'll read about. Make sure to think about that and compare it to your own. So I think that there's a lot of things that you can make notes out of throughout your reading. So make sure to do that in order to have the best literature seminar possible at the end. So now do you know sort of what we'll do with the book? Let's get started and talk about the book. And first and foremost, we'll talk about Trevor Noah, who is the author. Now, you might recognize him, you might have never heard of him, but he is a South African comedian, writer, producer, actor, television host, and he is quite active now as well. He's leading The Daily Show. It's a very famous talk show in the United States. He was born in 1984 in Johannesburg, South Africa. And he has quite a special story that you'll be able to read throughout the book, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in the next page. because his story is very much connected to the title Born a Crime. Now, when I first read this title, I was not entirely knowing what this actually meant. It was first when I actually started to read the book that I understand what he meant with Born a Crime. Well, it actually means that his birth was a crime, that he was the fruit of something that was actually illegal. Because you see, his father was Swiss German, a white man, and his mother was Exosa, a black woman from an African tribe, and she was black. And interracial marriages at this time was actually illegal. Even if they weren't married, just them coming together, having a child together was actually illegal. And both of them was full aware that this was not that it was not legal and that they were actually doing something illegal. So for Trevor, he grew up being the only colored boy, and he tried to navigate in a world where people were white or black, while he was actually considered color. He was not completely black, he was not white, he was something in between, right? So he was living in a world where he didn't really belong anywhere. He tried to navigate through that. And I think it's quite a journey to read this book. And there are a few things I want you to think about and reflect on while you read. First of all, I think that when we open a book, we think that, okay, this is Trevor's book. It's about him and his upbringing. But when you finish the book, you might notice that, okay, actually the main character of this book is Patricia Noah, his mother. And I want you to think about the relationship between Trevor and his mother throughout the book, from when he was a child to when he was an adult. How does he view and write about her and her life choices? There are some different things that happens throughout the book that really changes the way that he views her. So I want you to think about that and keep that in mind. And Patricia, she has very strict Christian values. And I want you to reflect and see how Trevor's response is to these, and sort of how they can sometimes reflect society's views on Christian values sometimes. And also have a think if they are the same when he was a child to when he's an adult, or if they change. The second theme I would like for you to have in mind when reading is that I want you to compare Trevor's upbringing to your own. What stands out? What main differences are there? Is it the same? Has Trevor experienced different things to you? Think about the culture, the family bonds, the society around him. Compare that to yourself and to your own upbringing. What are the similarities and differences? And see also if you experience any culture shocks along the way. Were there any situations that shocked you or made you uncomfortable? I also want you to think about the South African culture. If there anything new that you learned about the country or about the history of the country, or things that they still do today that were new or unfamiliar to you. And I also want to see if what Trevor Noah writes about, if that challenges your views on some topics, or if it gives you new perspectives. A little bit what I talked about before about the reading journals. See if it gives you new points of views in life, or if it's just the same as you thought before. Also talk about the book in literary terms. So I want you to think about some of these literary terms when we talk about the book at the end. Now, you'll learn more about these as you go along in the course, but it can be good to already now think about these terms in order to be able to analyze the book. So some of these are theme, message, characters, conflict, genre, narration, language, and figurative language. Think about these while you read, because it's easier to do it than after you read. You might have to reread some places. So I'll have another presentation where I talk more about these terms, but I want you to be aware of that I expect you to be able to talk about these when we have our literature seminar. So, to just finish this short presentation, I just want you to reflect on what you see and what you meet in the book. What does that mean to you? And does it add anything to your values, to the way that you view South Africa and that culture, to colonialism, to apartheid, and all of those things that you'll meet? I also want you to learn new words. I think that the book contains a few words that you can learn along the way. So keep a list of good words that you can learn and that you might be unfamiliar with from before. And to the literature seminar, I would like you to choose at least one quote that you liked and that you would like to discuss during the seminar. So keep that in mind and choose carefully what you would like to discuss when we meet. So that was all for this presentation. Good luck with reading the book. I really hope that you enjoy it. But if you don't, that's completely fine, of course. But happy reading of Born a Crime by Trevor Noah.